Tarek. How are you doing? We are
Hi,
live
doctor. I'm
from.
doing fine. Thank you very much. Good to be
Thank you
back.
so much, yeah, for being with us today for our session under Global Entrepreneurship Week. Actually, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me first introduce myself. My name is Zulikwan Ayub. I'm actually the Chief Operating Officer for Gen Malaysia. And together with us for the slot of GEW for Good to talk about the business of social entrepreneurship, that would be Mohamed Tarek, the founder of EARTH, but most importantly, last Entrepreneurship World Cup. Tarek was actually in the top 25 most valuable startups around the world, beating more or nearly 200,000 startups around the globe as well. Tarek, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Thanks.
I see. So perhaps, Tarek, we can start by you introducing a little bit about yourself, what your company is doing, etc. as well.
So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and when I heard that it has a chapter in Malaysia last year, actually because the winner of last year was also my friend, we went together to the Social Enterprise Boot Camp in Magic, and then he won. So I was very proud, and we thought that it's great to have it here in Malaysia. So my name is Mohamed Tarek. I've originally, my parents are from Egypt, but I've lived in Finland all of my life. And I started EARTH 2 years ago with my co-founder Nahed, who was from Egypt. It also happens to be my wife. The reason we started EARTH was because we realized that waste management was a big problem around the world, but not all types of waste are actually being handled properly. So I think a lot of people, for example, are aware that we have a plastic problem, that we have a food waste problem, but actually if you look at e-waste, according to the United Nations, only 17.4% of all the e-waste that we generate is recycled properly. So that means that as we as a society start to increasingly consume more and more electronics, less and less of it is actually being recycled, and more of it is going to the landfills. And why is that dangerous? Even though the e-waste is only 3% of the solid waste generated by consumers, is actually responsible for 70% of the toxic heavy metals that contaminate the soil and water. So it's a very big environmental issue, and it also doesn't make sense from an economic perspective, because there is so much precious metals and valuable materials inside e-waste that can be reclaimed and used to make new devices. So the business model certainly is easier to fix than some of the other types of waste. So we did our research, and we found that 50% of the e-waste in the world comes from Asia. And then we researched Asia. So India and China were a bit too big for us. We were just two people with an idea. We looked at Singapore. It was a bit too small. Indonesia, a bit too fragmented. So Malaysia was just perfect. It's welcoming to immigrant entrepreneurs. It has a big local market and English speaking, and it just had so many of the market conditions that make it a perfect place for us to come and set up here.
So Tarek, what does your business actually do? I mean, what was the business model?
Yeah. So in summer of 2018, we came to Malaysia on a visit, and this is before we even set up our business here. We came here, we just wanted to see, is this, does this idea is even needed here? Is it valuable? So we went to, for example, several digital malls. Biggest of them is, for example, Loyat Plaza. And while we were walking near to closing time, we saw a phone dealer pushing out of his shop a big glass box that had 4,000 half-broken and dusty Nokia mobile phones. I lived in Finland, right? So Nokia was like our national pride. So I saw those phones being treated so badly. I asked him, why are you doing this? So he was like, yeah, I'm just renting out my shop lot. So I'm cleaning all the junk devices that I have accumulated over the last 20 years. So I told him, but this is e-waste. You can't really throw it in the trash. So he was like, oh, but in Malaysia, we don't have a system where someone can collect this. So that's why we all just throw it in the trash. So I offered him $1,000 US which is about 4,000 ringgit for the entire patch. And then 24 hours later, I took a grab with the 4,000 mobiles to a licensed recycler, and they bought from me that material for 6,000 ringgit. So we made a very handsome profit in like 24 hours, and that was, we were not even set up yet. So that's when we knew that, okay, this business is ready, just to connect the person or company that want to recycle with the licensed recycling channels. It already needs a layer in between to connect those two, and that's what we do nowadays.
I see. And would you say that, Tariq, because of your business model, that actually makes it a very viable business model, or a social entrepreneurs to have it in Malaysia as compared to where you are from? So what do you think the difference in the landscape itself?
So first of all, I have to say that we are really, really impressed with how robust the SME ecosystem here. Like here, you can find a pool of freelancers that are ready to give you a service affordably, almost unlimited, because basically everyone is a kind of an independent entrepreneur. They want to work in their own time. They don't want to be necessarily attached for a 9 to 5. They only maybe want to work for like 2 hours, 4 hours, depend on when they want, at the time they want, etc. So
So
that's
you're
why the
saying
gig, yeah,
basically.
the gig economy is alive and well here, and that's great for our business, because our business is asset light. Like we are basically not the McDonald's, we are like the food panda. McDonald's has to invest in the real estate, has to buy the equipment, cook the food, etc., etc. But then comes food panda, just getting the orders from the app, and then just facilitating the logistics, and then they get like 30%. So we are very, very similar model to that.
I see, I see. And how about the current pandemic, COVID-19? Does it really affect your business at the moment, actually?
Okay, so the first MCO, we were really sitting for 6 weeks. Our order book was growing. Like we accumulated orders during the 6-week MCO, which was a bigger volume than our entire 2019. So the orders were coming in, but we couldn't fulfill them. So we were just wondering, because we at that time we didn't know when this was going to end. So we were just wondering, like, are we going to survive? Because we still have to pay rent for our warehouse, and we also have to survive ourselves because we earn a living from this. So how long will this last, and can we survive? But immediately when we came back on May 4th, we got to work such that in the following 4 months, we executed our entire order book, which we accumulated during the MCO, which means that in 4 months, we did more volume than our entire 2019.
So
and that, yes, this year, yes, when we came back, we execute the order book, which we couldn't fulfill during the MCO, but we managed to do it after May 4th. And then in 4 months, we did more revenue than we did in our entire 2019. So that's when the MCO, or rather the COVID situation, it quickly shifted from being a big threat to our business to actually a catalyzer that ended up being that our business grew by 3 or 4 times in a very short period of time.
So do you think, what are the factors that may affect such increase in the volume actually? Is it because of CMCO, or is it because us is getting more traction at the moment? What do you think?
Okay, we had some organic growth, but it certainly is not responsible for such a big jump in our volume. I think the factors are as such that, number one, people had more time to spend at home. So they did find out, for example, what are the things that are cluttering my home, etc. So that they had more time to find those stuff. Number two, a lot of people lost income, so they were looking for ways to make some money. We are paying cash rewards, and very generous cash rewards. So that is number two. And then number three, unfortunately, the MCO took a toll on all the incumbents in the market. So a lot of the companies that were bigger than us, much bigger than us before the MCO, they downsized significantly. So all the work that they are now unable to do because they have lower staff has been shifting to new players like us.
I see. Tariq, when we talk about social entrepreneurship, some people would say, social entrepreneurship is just a nice way of saying that you are capitalizing on the social cost. In that sense, money matters, and perhaps to find the balance between making it profitable and impactful, you might need to choose one. So what are your thoughts on this matter?
No, no, no. I certainly don't believe it's either or. I am totally believing that you can run not even just a double bottom line, meaning that you make money and you do social good, but even triple bottom line, which is you make money, social good, and environmental good. I totally believe that there are some businesses in the world that can totally align these three things. And now we are starting to see a shift in the global mindset, such that all layers of the economy are starting to think of sustainability. Like in the past, maybe consumers were driving the sustainability, and then the businesses were just fulfilling that demand. But the investors maybe were just fiscal and they just cared about how much money you can make. No, actually now the shift is happening such that every layer, all these three layers are having sustainability as an important thing. Having said that, I don't think that as a social enterprise, we can afford to have a bad business model, because as a social enterprise, you pay 50% at least of your revenue to your beneficiaries. So that means that your profit margin need to be significant, definitely more than 50%, so that after paying 50% to your beneficiaries, you still have enough money to survive and enough money to pay back your investors. So I think that social entrepreneurs need to think about making money first, because social good and maybe environmental good, that comes as a DNA of the startup. If you succeed, you will definitely improve the social conditions because you pay to the beneficiaries. Maybe you will benefit the environmental condition, but if you cannot survive and make enough money, then you cannot help anybody. So you have to think of that first as a social enterprise.
Okay. So just going back to what you said, you mentioned just now, you mentioned that you have to pay for beneficiaries. So I guess in your company, you have two types of beneficiaries. The first one will be environment, and the
Yes.
second one will be
The heroes, so the freelancers who do the gigs that we put on the system. So we basically, let's say you live in TTDI and we have someone who want to recycle in TTDI, so it's much more affordable. Instead of me sending a driver from Cyberjaya to TTDI, collect the stuff and come back, it's easier to have a freelancer who lives in TTDI, and then he just drives like 1 or 2 kilometers nearby, collect the stuff, bring it to us, to our nearest hub, and then they earn a living from just performing that service. So the two beneficiaries is, of course, the environment. So we actually pay for recyclables. And by paying for the recyclables, we totally divert them from the landfills, because if we don't pay for them, they're going to end up in the trash or end up in the informal sector or in the landfill. So we pay to benefit the environment by diverting from the landfill. And who perform our collection is people, regular people who earn income from that. So these are the two beneficiaries that receive 50% of our revenue at least.
I see. So do you mind to just share with us the milestones to date or the impacts you have created for both of the groups?
Yes. So in our first year, 2019, we managed to divert 100,000 kilograms of e-waste from the landfills. And then in 2020, we managed to divert 250,000 kilograms. So we grew our volume by 2.5 times, but actually grew our revenue by 3.5 times. So even more than the growth in our volume, because we are managing to diversify our income streams. We are starting to become more wiser about the e-waste that we get, how to sort it, how to fix it, how to use it again, if there is a way to use it again. Because just to give you an example, many companies follow a 3-year depreciation cycle for the finance department when it comes to laptops and computers and stuff. But everybody knows that you can have a 3-year-old laptop, which for a company's finance department has zero value on the books, but it's a perfectly functional. So when they get rid of it, there's no point in basically throwing it in the landfill, and even sometimes no point to immediately send it to be scrapped at the factory. So the best thing at that time, of course, you remove the data, you remove the hard drive and so on, but if there is some valuable spare parts inside, then you could give it another life with a new user who can use it for another 3 years. So we started to do that, and that has really affected our revenue in a very positive way.
That's good. That's good. Congratulations to you, Tarek.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
how about the supports you have been receiving from the ecosystem itself?
Oh,
And
yeah.
how that is different compared, because I know you're from Egypt and you believe in Finland. So how would the ecosystem here in Malaysia be different compared to other countries as well?
First of all, let me relay to you the great news. Okay, I will give you a contrast because you mentioned Egypt and Finland. In Egypt, you have a very exciting and energetic startup ecosystem, but unfortunately, the public institutions are not providing enough support to make those successful. Okay, and then on the other side in Finland you have the public institutions that support you, but you don't have enough entrepreneurial drive. And here is where Malaysia has an amazing ecosystem, because you really combine the energy, the ideas, the dynamism of the Asian economies with amazing public institutions that have so many instruments that can help you. So I can even say that, you know, as immigrant entrepreneurs, we were surprised that even as we are not citizens of this country, but we have received support from Magic, from Cyberview, from Might, from, of course, Gen Malaysia, and so on. So all of these, whether they are NGOs or public governmental institutions, they all can give you a very good boost as an entrepreneur. So I think that everybody who's thinking about entrepreneurship need to recognize all of these tools available at their disposal, and know that the good news here is when you have a good idea, everybody lines up behind you to support you, which is very, very lucky, I would say, for people here in Malaysia.
But Tariq, I
Congratulations for that.
always, yeah. Thank you so much. But Tariq, I
Oh,
always find,
I have to mention also CITEC, because we were also in the Selangor Accelerator program. So I have to mention all the different accelerators that supported us. So thank you to Selangor as well.
yeah, thank you so much. But Tariq, I always find that, social entrepreneurship in Malaysia is such a very, at a very infant stage. The public, not all of them know about social entrepreneurship. And I find it very hard to explain about the concept of social entrepreneurship. So my question to you, do you face a similar stigma or problem when you go to the public? And second thing, besides that, do you face any other challenges when you are actually executing your business model?
So I actually think that we don't overly emphasize the fact that we are a social enterprise. We are a social enterprise very much, but when we are out there, for example, pitching to investors or talking to the media, we don't try to talk about that first. We try to talk about how, what is, of course, okay, our environmental impact is obvious because we recycle, but we mainly talk about, for example, that we provide a competitive service versus a fiscal company. So we basically try to level the playing field and just talk about our company as a regular company. But if the conversation comes to, oh, do you do social impact? Yes, we have great answers. Do you do environmental impact? We have great answers. But we don't talk about that first. And the reason is, this is maybe the other side of the story, is that you have very progressive public institutions and the government supporting social enterprise. But when it comes to private investors, I will tell you a story. I spoke to one of the biggest investors in Malaysia. They have amazing companies under their belt. And when we were pitching to them, I asked them flat out, does the fact that we are an impact company have any positive effect whatsoever on your decision to invest in us or not? And they just simply shrugged it off and said, no, it doesn't. We don't care about that. We only care about how much ROI you can make us.
Mhm.
So there are pockets of the economy
Mhm.
that maybe still didn't get the memo that the social enterprise, social good impact is really, really important nowadays. They are still following different metrics. So that's why maybe we don't overemphasize the social enterprise. We just show them the real numbers. Look how much profit we're making, look our margins, look, etc., etc. And
Mhm.
then just talk about the social and environmental impact as a kind of a secondary metric.
I see. Tariq, we have a question from one of, I think, our fellow social entrepreneurs. Yeah. Is a question basically asking to you, do you find it hard to actually convince investors, or actually to make sure it can become a profit-driven and at the same time impact company? So how do you actually convince investors to have a look at your company?
Okay, so I have to tell you that if our business would have needed external investment from the beginning in order to survive, we would not be here today. So the good news about our business, it was self-funded because we are serial entrepreneurs. We had some funds from our previous businesses. We also had some family and friends who put money in, but we didn't basically for our first 2 years rely on any external investment. So but this was facilitated by the fact that we were break even after 6 months, and even our first operational year, we made a tiny profit. So we were already like cash flow positive, generating slightly more money than we spent, and that gave us like kind of a stamina to last for 2 years while we optimize our numbers. But nowadays, if you look at our situation 2 years later, we really managed to fix our profit margins such that even after spending 50% on our beneficiaries, we still can provide a very good ROI for an investor. And when we fix the numbers, the investors started knocking our door. So that's just what you have to do. Maybe it's a bit slower for social enterprise because you are spending 50% month on month to your beneficiaries. So you don't have so much money to invest in yourself, but maybe it will take you, maybe instead of a normal company 1 year, it would maybe take you double that, let's say 2 years. But eventually, once your numbers make sense for an investor, the investors will start knocking.
Mm-hmm. And there is another question as well, Tariq. Can you be rich by become a social entrepreneur?
Okay, first of all, I totally believe you can. I know of many successful, wealthy, and amazing success stories that have done social good during their business, because not everybody follows the Bill Gates model, which means that I spend all my life making money and then I spend the last 20 years making good. So you don't have to do it in a very linear way. You can actually do it in parallel. So I think you can get rich by doing social good. And I think I have to say here that there is some hidden advantages to being a social enterprise. Let me give an example. Social enterprise spends so much money for the beneficiaries, so it doesn't have, for example, big budget to go and take billboard advertising or TV advertising. However, because the story is so good and the impact is so good, you will find big companies, like, for example, in our case, we're very, very happy to be working with like a DHL and Ambank and CIMB and so on. So big companies who love the story, love the impact, they will come and partner with you and then do like some kind of a marketing campaign or a PR campaign, which would normally, if you were not an impact company, cost you hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, but now you get it for free because you have a good story. So things balance out. You don't have the money for the budget, but you have a good story, so you get people to help you for free.
And speaking of the storytelling, do you have any advice for fellow social entrepreneurs actually who will be wanting to venture in this field and at the same time approaching the investors for funding or getting some support in that sense? Do you have any angle that they should go on?
Yeah, definitely you need to have a good story, why your idea needs to exist, what is the value that you're bringing, how are you aligning, because you don't live in a vacuum. You live connected to other entities, like, for example, in our case, there was already factories that did the recycling, and there were consumers and businesses who had stuff to recycle. What was missing was the link between those two, so we built that. You need to figure out in your particular business what is the missing link and what is the story. Like, for example, when I mentioned today the story of Loya Plaza, a guy who made $1,000 even though he was gonna throw the stuff away, and then the profit that I made in 24 hours, that immediately give you the idea of, oh, okay, this is so simple, why doesn't exist already? So you need to have a sharp story like that you can say it in like a minute, that encapsulates the whole thing, and this comes with practice. I was not so I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years of my life, by the way, so it didn't come naturally to me. In the beginning, I tended to rant on and on and on, trying to explain my point, but when you have practiced it enough, then you start to become, very crisp and very sharp and can say it in a concise way.
Just another question from our fellow audience here. How do you use, what kind of model do you use actually to do the impact measurements, to make sure that your business is actually a social enterprise? So what kind of models or framework that you use and adopt in your business model?
So we actually use two. One, from the environmental perspective, there is something called the Basel Action Network, which is the kind of organization that is advocating for proper e-waste practices around the world. They have something called the e-waste calculator, where you put in the amount of e-waste that you have recycled, and it will tell you how much greenhouse gas emissions that you have reduced and how much toxic have you diverted from landfills and so on. So we use that for the environmental side. For the social side, we actually recently started using a model that was developed here actually by Magic. So I think it's called the IMG, the Impact Measurement Guide. So we use that framework developed by Magic to measure our social good, and we're happy to say that I think Magic for the next 2 or 3 years will be monitoring our impact, because we are part of the SIM matching grant. So we are one of the recipients. So that's why we use the tool, and they also monitor our progress for the next few years.
So Tarek, what's the future holds for Earth actually? What's your expansion plan?
So as the Global E-Waste Monitor has shown, e-waste is a globally decentralized problem. So it needs a globally decentralized solution. And we are amazingly, we are very, very satisfied with how we have grown here in Malaysia. We could continue being just a Malaysia-only company and still be very, very successful and so on. However, we really see the urgency to try to replicate whatever we have built here in Malaysia in other countries, but in a much faster way than we did here. We don't really need the 2-year learning curve that we went through. We want it to happen fast. Like, anybody should have the tool so that in Paris or Cairo or New York, anyone can set up the local collection using the freelancers, just like we do, using the tools that we have developed. So now we are working next year on a completely end-to-end technology platform. So this platform will have 6 modules, all the way from the booking, all the way until the warehousing, and everything in between. So this will include some machine learning and some driver assignment, route optimization, basically equip anyone, anywhere, without any prerequisite to log into the system and run an entire collection operation very, very easily. And by that, we will enable, empower entrepreneurs around the world to start solving this problem in their own local area. And I think that is our global expansion plan.
So that would be fair for me to say that you're using Malaysia as your launching pad towards,
Yes.
Your global penetration.
For sure, because I think Malaysia has many advantages in the sense that Malaysia is already diverse. So we are already catering to different consumers, different businesses. So we are learning a lot, and it's an amazing experimental market, which is already big in its size. But I think, of course, Malaysia is like 2% of the global market. So it's big enough, but at the same time, there is still a lot more ground to cover globally. So I think that for the first 2 years, it was great to be here, and we plan to be here. We will always be headquartered in Malaysia. We are a Malaysian company, registered here and paying taxes here and everything. So we will continue to be that way. But I think we also have a very ambitious global expansion plan, and the technology is a big part of that, because I don't want to go and open offices in 200 countries. But if I have a tech platform, I can enable people in 200 countries to replicate what I did here.
But just wondering, Tarek, when you have a global expansion plan on place as well, there will become a point that the ethos and values of the company might be, derail a little bit. So how do you want to make sure that Earth maintains its social impact while having a similar global expansion plan to penetrate other countries?
Actually, the way we try to to stay true to our values, but at the same time enable the global expansion, is not to centralize too much control. So when we build the technology platform and we allow the local entrepreneurs to use our tools to run the operation, actually they retain the majority of the profit. Why? Because we also want them to pay 50% of what they make to the beneficiaries. So we have to make them make enough money so that they can really stay true to the values of the organization. But of course, we are not also going to give the tools for free, because we also need money to develop the tools further and so on. So we are going to keep a platform fee, which is very, very reasonable, somewhere around 25%, but then the other 75% will all go towards the local entrepreneur so that he can afford to pay 50% to the beneficiaries.
Just wondering, Tarek, let's go a little bit, to a more casual topic, yeah? So perhaps you can share with us your experiences, your journey towards, going for the global stage of Entrepreneurship World Cup. I think we've met during the Malaysia round. So what happens afterwards?
Yeah.
How was your preparation and things like that?
So I have to give credit to my co-founder Nehed, because she was the one who actually applied for us, and she's the one who got us through, like, the first stages, and then I pitched during the Malaysian finals, and we were very lucky, and very proud that we were trusted with representing Malaysia on a global stage. And we made it to top 25 globally, so I'm sorry we didn't win, but anyway, I think we tried to
Country, sorry.
Thank you. So we tried our best, and I think that we so how was it? It was amazing. It was very competitive, I have to say, because there was some very, very good companies presenting with us. I remember the tense moment, because we didn't actually go there knowing we're gonna win or anything. We just pitched like everybody else, and then waited for the results. And when our name was said, it was an amazing moment. I think you can see it on the video that we were really taken back by the moment. But unfortunately, during the qualification round, like for the quarterfinal, unfortunately, I was carrying some e-waste, so I basically damaged a nerve in my shoulder, and that basically made me bedridden on exactly the same week where we were presenting in the quarterfinal. So Nehed had to basically step in, because any co-founder could represent the company. So she stepped in and she pitched, and then she got us from the quarterfinal all the way to the semifinal. But then that was where it ended for us. So I think that just teaches me that if you are a solo entrepreneur, you really need to work on having a team, and a team doesn't mean a lot of people. It could at least mean at least one other co-founder, because no matter how capable you are, no matter how strong you are, there will come a moment when you will need to lean on your partners. And if you are a solo entrepreneur, I have tried it both ways. I've tried the solo entrepreneur way, and I've tried having a co-founder. And for now, I actually believe that it's even not worth being an entrepreneur if you don't have a co-founder, because there is just so many tough moments that it's so much easier to have someone in it with you than to just be dealing with everything on your own. So yeah, that's just a few words about our experience, and yeah, that's it. Did I answer your question?
Yes. But were you expecting that you will be making it into top 25 actually?
No, to be honest, no, because I thought that we were wondering, actually. We were like, oh, the team, the judging team in Saudi Arabia saw me on the video, but then Nahed pitched in the quarterfinal. So we were like, oh, are they going to be confused? Are they going to wonder who is this? She appeared for the first time and so on. But actually, no. If anything, I think maybe they were actually pleased that we have a gender balance, that we are not just all males or something like that. We also had female co-founder, and she also did a very, very good pitch. So I think we made it to top 25. We didn't know that we would make it, because obviously on the global stage you have, like you just said, like it's 175,000 companies applied, and now it's like down to the top 50 or top 100, I think it was. So it was very, very good companies, but then when we made it to top 25, we were very, very proud. So proud that even when we weren't announced in the top 10, because the top 10 now can compete for money. Top 25, they just get the prestige, but not any money. We weren't sad, because still being top 25 out of 175,000 is an amazing amazing honor. And we did have some investors reach out to us, even though we are only top 25. So I think that for all intents and purposes, it already achieved its objective for us. And at the end of the day, there was only, I think, 3 winners or something like that. So even the ones who made it to the top 10, the majority of them walked away with not much money. So it was okay. It's more about participation than winning, let's say.
But because I remember when you were competing during the Malaysian round, it was a unanimous decision that you will be representing Malaysia for EWC Global. So, in terms of the difficulty, I understand that global will be much tougher. But what are the differences in terms of your preparations, as well as in terms of fine-tuning your pitch to make sure that you can compete in the global stage? What are the differences?
Yeah, okay. The differences, I have to say that during the global, there was a much stricter process and a much more limited limited room for you to customize the pitch to the way you are used to. You have to follow the cookie cutter approach. You have to use this slide format. You have to talk like that. You have only this limited time. So it was much more limited. Yes, we did have a structure here in Malaysia as well, but I do remember that actually the instruction was just use the template and then do the slides however you like. No, that was not the case in the global final. The global final, you had to follow exactly the format that they have given you.
I see. But how about in terms of the support you have received from either from Gen Malaysia or Gen Global, as well as if there's one takeaway that you can get from Entrepreneurship World Cup, what would that be?
So I think that the good news is that the Gen team were always keen on us meeting our fellow startups. So they wanted us to connect with them at every opportunity. They created a Slack group where they put us all in. We were kind of having camaraderie during the announcement time and so on. So I think that was one of the, of course, it was more challenging because of the COVID situation. Everything was online than before. I think, obviously, if we were face to face in one place with them, the spirit would have been probably better. But nevertheless, they just tried to make use of all the tools available to get the contestants to mingle together and get to know one another.
I see. So just to conclude our session for today, Tarek, do you have any advice you would like to give, to fellow social entrepreneurs or people out there who would like to have their hands on social entrepreneurship? Do you have any advice for that?
Yes, start if you're thinking about it, start now. Now is as good a time as any. Actually, now is the best time, because the path to success is not a straight line. It's can be a very rocky road, and I think it would be helpful because we are living in a very uncertain time. You saw even some of the biggest institutions in the world got disrupted this year. And like for example, let me just give an example. If you're an airline, like, how do you get around a situation like what we saw here? Like, even the biggest companies that everyone took for granted that these guys are very successful, they're never gonna go away. Actually, many of the companies shut down, and we're talking also about like car rental companies, movie theaters, and many different kinds of business. So we are living in a changing time, and when so much change is happening in the economy, there is also so many opportunities springing up. Like you now you will see, like, for example, like, just to give you an example, there is a business that now creates some kind of a coating that you can basically spray all around your office, so that if a virus is basically touches any surface in your workplace, it becomes immediately killed within 30 seconds. Now, I'd imagine if someone came to me in 2019 and told me, hey, would you like to buy this magic nano spray and spray it all around so that any virus can be killed, I would have laughed, because I would say, oh, come on, if anyone, I'm not gonna pay so much money so that the common flu, to protect against the common flu, I can just go and buy aspirin for a few ringgit. But nowadays you see how much change has happened, so you could seriously consider to apply that spray. And the same applies, that as all of these changes happen in our economy and our society, there is more and more opportunities for us to step up and to provide valuable services. So I think this is a great time. And as you know, in the last, during the dot-com bubble, Google emerged. So during these uncertain times, this is a kind of the very fertile land for amazing companies to come. So I think it's a great time for anyone thinking about entrepreneurship.
I see. All right. Thank you so much, Tarek, for being with us today. And again, congratulations.
Thank you, Doctor.
For making it into top 25, among 175,000 other startups competing at Entrepreneurship World Cup. And I heard right now you are also a part of the Scale Up Malaysia.
Yes, that's correct. We are very happy to be part of their second cohort. They are a very hands-on accelerator, so they're very different from all the accelerators we participated before, in the sense that the whole thing is like a pressure cooker. Like, you are right there in between. They dig into your business. They really help you to institutionalize, to transform your company. But by the way, they don't take idea stage companies. They only take companies that already generate revenue. So once you are already like doing it for a couple of years, you're generating enough revenue, you're generating some profit, then you need an accelerator like that to institutionalize the business and change it from a business that relies on the co-founders' heroic efforts to a process-based organization that can hire people and scale, without kind of compromising on the values and the results, the productivity, and so on. So we're very happy with our experience so far, and we are very, very excited about 2021. We are really have big plans for next year, inshallah.
I'm sure, Tarek. I mean, good luck again, and congratulations again, for all the amazing achievements, and most importantly, the impacts you have brought to our community as a whole.
Thank you, and thank you to Malaysia for being a great host country, and we hope to continue to make you proud on the global stage. And we consider ourselves, Malaysian by soul. So we continue to, of course, equally embrace Malaysia as Malaysia has so kindly embraced us.
Okay, thank you so much, Tarek.
Thank you, Doctor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tarek from ERTH, the founder of ERTH, as well as top 25 companies for the Entrepreneurship World Cup, beating the other 175,000 startups all over the world. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.